Have been entered into MMS. Um, Monday, I was able to print a course request tally, which tells me how many students have requested each of the courses. My goal for the next couple of weeks is to look at what that master schedule might look like and begin running it and seeing how students fit in and how the staff fits in. In early June, we typically meet with the middle school guidance and administration to talk about, again, transitioning those students. And by June 10th, I'd like to have a draft of student and teacher schedules ready to go. And then that schedule adjustment just continues because there are always adjustments that have to make. Once school is out around June 30th, we'll know which students have failed courses. And so then we know, are they going to summer school or will they be repeating it during the school year next year? In early July, the local summer schools usually send me an enrollment list so I know which students have enrolled in summer school, and again, check that. By August 1st, I know whether they've successfully completed summer school, so we update again at that point. And then we have students who might be transferring in and out, and usually by mid-August, we're able to account for all of those students.
I have one question. I'm actually a comment and a question.
Okay.
That was a nice song. I'm a little concerned, actually I'm more than a little concerned at the 80 to 110, the failures and the ineligibilities. My question is sort of to that. With the block scheduling, you were able to, by the end of January, sort of see maybe where students were going to be falling on graduation eligibilities. Are they going to be able to graduate? Because you had half of their course listings through, you knew they failed. Are you predicting or anticipating more students not being able to graduate and dropping that at the end of the year, that sort of as a surprise because you kind of maybe were able to gauge that in January before?
I would say no, I do not anticipating more students being in danger of not graduating. By the start of the senior year, students who are not where they need to be credit-wise, we have a plan for them. This is what you need to do in order to graduate with your class. For many of them, it involves night school, and those students who are making a commitment to graduate with their class will usually take advantage of night school in the fall.
Okay.
And so in that sense, that's not something that I think has changed dramatically as a result of the schedule. I don't think we'll be seeing any surprises. At this point in time, I just met with the guidance department the week before vacation. At this point in time, any student who was trying to graduate because they were behind at the beginning of the year is still in a position to do that with 3 exceptions. And
okay.
That to me would be typical of any year, at least the 5 years that I've been here.
Okay. And going back to the 80 to 110, why do you think such a drastic difference?
Again, I think for some students, the responsibility of 6 classes
It's just too much.
It's just too much. I'm not saying that it would always be that way. It's been a transition year for all of us.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not in the classroom. It's been a transition year for me trying to manage my time. So I think that would be typical in any year where you've changed anything significantly. And as I said, for some students, that was just a lot to take on, going from 4 to 6.
So of those 110, are you seeing that most of those are junior, or sophomore, juniors, and seniors? Because don't the middle school students have 6 classes at the middle school?
They do, but freshman year is always a huge transition year. So again, I'm seeing most of them being 9th and 10th graders, which again, in the block schedule, the 9th graders are clearly something that I would see every year because of the transition to high school. It's a tough year.
Anybody else?
Well, so of the 30
Plus.
increase, of that, some are 9th graders. So they're not affected by a change in scheduling because they weren't exposed to the block schedule.
No, they weren't exposed. I think the challenge for
more
them is high
ninth.
school in general,
Yes.
where you're now in a credit earning system, which is new to them. So in order to advance, you have to keep earning credits, and it takes a while for that to sink in for some of them.
If you were just to look at the freshmen, is that number stable from what it was for every freshman class?
I would say it's fairly consistent, yes.
So the increase we're not seeing necessarily with the freshman class. You're seeing the increase with the other
I would say
classes?
predominantly sophomores, few juniors.
Interesting. Is returning to the block schedule something that is still potential, or is that,
I told her that that question would come up, that I would try to answer it as politically
I'll ask
correct
it
as
to you then.
possible. As you saw in the slides, there has been quite a bit of discussion. You know, last year when we looked at the pros and cons, it seemed like it was okay to go to the 6-period schedule. After taking the data into account this year, listening to the staff, listening to the students, just looking at how the school runs differently now, would we like to go back to the block schedule? My preference would probably be yes. My biggest concern is whether we have enough staff to make that transition backwards, in particular around, you know, providing staff to support the students who now would be in very long classes, but you may have them in some 9th grade classes versus some 10th grade classes, or classes that are meeting at the same time, and I don't have enough staff to have them go between one class and the other unless we can get the staff to be able to spend some time in one class and then move to the next one within the same period. It's been floated out there. I don't think we've reached any kind of a conclusion at this point. That would be one of the few stumbling blocks that I would see to going back to the block schedule. But if the idea is adding more staff in order to be able to go back to the block schedule, it would be very difficult to do that, because if you wait a few minutes to the FinCom budget conversation, you'll see that I don't think we can do that this year. If we could do it without adding staff, I don't know. I think from most of the conversations that I've had with people, I think we would much rather deal with the challenges we saw under the block schedule than the challenges we are seeing now with the 6-period schedule. But to go back would mean additional resources, just to go back to what we exactly had. If we go back to a block schedule that allows staff to go between blocks or within those periods of time, part in one class, part to the other class, then we may be able to do it, but we haven't fully explored that. That's why we're still looking at June as our target of, you know, drop dead. We're going to put the schedule in front of the kids and the parents, make sure it works, and send it out the door. So we still have a month to try to answer that question.
Tim?
Dr. Colley, granted, we took a look at what needed to be done before we went away from block scheduling last year, and I guess I kind of like to know, what did we do last year, and how have we adapted over time, and what are we going to do to prepare us for the future? Because I don't necessarily agree that, oh, we moved from block schedule to 6 classes, that's the reason we've got more ineligible or delinquencies, or what did we not do as a district to prepare ourselves better to protect and insulate the students from these changes?
I think part of it is a twofold. There are parts of it that the structure drives what the system does to some extent. This whole idea of 8 classes within a year versus 6 classes within the year, that is a structural change. If you go from one to the other, there's nothing the district could have done differently to add 2 more classes. You just can't do that. So in that sense, that's one of those challenges that we've seen this year, that it's a structural change. Either you have the structure of 8 classes or you have a structure that gives you 6. You can't have it both ways. The other challenges that we could work on, I'll give you some, I'll just go back to some of the things the students have said. Where you used to have 4 pieces of homework on any one given night, there may be perhaps bigger or more extensive or more involved